Hi everyone, great to see you all again. This is going out on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook and on X, formerly known as Twitter. For those of you who are thinking I've come to deliver milk tray, I haven't, and I'm not auditioning for the Saint. I've just put on another polo neck, no problem at all. So the last session on Monday, we covered the 7 questions to ask to troubleshoot, implement, put in place a project management office to end procrastination. So if you've got a change that's happening in your business, if you've got a change that you want to implement, if you want to grow fast and implement an organic growth strategy, if you want to go out and buy a company and you want to put in place a program or a project of work to do that, if you want to raise money in your business and put together a business plan, if you need to formulate a project charter for a business to get it up and running, if a project is underway and it's stalling or not going as fast as you would like it to, or there's some problems and things that keep happening that you weren't prepared for, these 7 questions will allow you to answer that. So we started off with the why. So having a SMART objective mission statement that positively influences and positively impacts your vision. And your vision is having definite purpose, plan for the future, and clear values. Having a clear, SMART mission statement as to what success will look like at the end of the project. And we'll come on to why that's so important in a second, because this session is all about being able to structure and put in place and embed governance structure for you to manage the project or have someone else manage the project for you moving forward. And also, if you stay till the end, there'll be a key bonus for you as well as to how to globalize best practice rapidly by adopting this framework. If you're watching on YouTube, then don't forget to subscribe and give us a quick like as well. You'll be able to watch all of these videos back either through the live stream or through the edits when I upload the videos afterwards. So starting off with the why, a SMART key success factor as to what success will look like. Who will be involved? Who will form the project management office in terms of people and resources? Clients could be part of the project. So you'll have a project sponsor. You may have a steering group. You may have a senior leadership team, and you'll have people work streams that are able to implement the work that's been structured in terms of the work breakdown. And you've broken down the elements of work by asking the people, ideally who are specialists in that subject, or people who are going to deliver that work stream of work. And they've put in place the elements of work in terms of tasks in sequence, so you can see what the dependencies are of each task completing when the next one can start. You understand if there's any products that are going to come out of the project. So in terms of operations, what needs to come in terms of supply, products, materials, etc. What needs to come in terms of people, knowledge, what will be the necessary throughput, what will be operated, and what will be the output. And then you can assign costs associated with the work that's needed in sequence, the products that are needed to be bought and will be created, and they will formulate your work packages. And that's very important because we'll come on to work packages in a second, and I'm going to rub all of this off later as well, and we're going to draw how you can then put the governance and the wheels into motion once you've kicked off the project. You understand actions that have been created from the work packages. So you've started to create an action tracker. Again, by talking to your people, you'll understand key actions, what to do when issues arise, how to categorize them, which we'll come on to in a second, and the same with risks, how to treat risks, how to understand probability and impact in terms of categorization. You will have assigned key deadlines and understood the key milestones that need to be put in place that will formulate, again, understanding dependencies. So deadlines are needed for ensuring that when dependencies are in place, the next sequence of events can take place. Key milestones will be relevant to your critical success factors. So things that need to happen to ensure the success of the project. Once you understand actions, deadlines, milestones, and dependencies, they will formulate your program. And the program of work is something that you'll have, and we'll draw what it could look like as well in the session. Will allow you to easily track the actions that tie in to the program in terms of date, and we will come on to how we track the status of actions as well, but more importantly, how you can communicate progress and things like that. So you've got something illustrative. You're more informed because you understand critical success factors, and for the project management aficionados out there, understanding the critical path of events, you're able to communicate and also escalate areas when you're tracking actions that tie into the program. If something's going to slip, for example, then we'll come on to how we manage that. Where, really good bit at the end, so stay till the end, because we're going to cover geographical locations and how to globalize or how to mobilize things organically, rapidly if necessary, whether it's internal or external to your organization. And how much feasibility. So these things can be tracked as along with the program of work. So if you've allocated costs, you will have a budget plan that ties in to when money can be released, when progress is met. And that's very important, especially with major construction projects or major projects where you've raised finance. You will have to demonstrate progress to a lender, for example, before the next element of money funding is released. And so a program allows you to ensure that things meet deadlines, meet critical success factors, pass through stage gates, which we covered as well in the last session. So you can demonstrate, obviously physically demonstrate, if it's a construction project or some form of infrastructure that you've raised finance for, that you're putting in place in your business. So the next tranche or the next element of funding can be released. So that's a little bit about feasibility. I did explain that feasibility, program, work breakdown, product breakdown, etc. You can make an industry out of it, and in some cases it is necessary. Especially when it comes to feasibility. So I talked a little bit about projecting over 30 years for major projects. You'll form a special purpose vehicle that it'll have its own cash flow, balance sheet and P&L. It'll have its own weighted average cost of capital, which gives you your discount factor for you then to calculate internal rate of return, net present value and things like that. These things are required when you want to raise finance. So the person lending you the money, if it's a bank or an investor, they'll want to understand that, over this period of time, what's going to be the return and what's the weighted average cost of capital. It's discounted back to give the present value of what they're going to lend you. So a bit technical there, but what this is about again is asking these questions and being able to troubleshoot and or mobilize rapidly and get organized and switch off the noise. If you're inundated or you have a business to run and a project is, you've won a big contract, for example, and you have to get mobilized quickly, these 7 questions will set you in good stead, and a good experienced project manager will set you in good stead as well. So a bit about me. I've worked globally managing projects, transformations and changes in terms of mergers and acquisitions as well. I've had to mobilize projects across 100 countries and 150 locations with less than a week's notice. And I've had to put in place, adopting this framework, a program of work to be able to manage in sequence a very professional and very proficient project. And we actually got good feedback and actually won business from the client in consequence of that program. And I just adopted these things. So what I want to do is I'm going to use this side of the board. You'll see I've rewritten the questions down here: why, who, what, how, when, where, and how much, just for reference, because as you're creating this, you can always go back to them. These will get rubbed off in the end. But over on this side, what I want to elaborate a little bit more on are things like the work packages. Now, to be able to communicate effectively what the work packages will be to the work streams or the people that are going to deliver them, you should create what's called terms of reference. Terms of reference. In the terms of reference, they'll have key project indicators as to what that work stream is there to achieve. So again, going back to what success looks like, to hit the key mission statement, what key project indicators is this work stream going to achieve in order to ensure the support and success of the overall project and program. Again, from one end, I've used a PowerPoint slide that has explained who's in this work stream, whether it's the steering committee, whether it's the HR transformation, whether it's the digital transformation or IS&T function. They've always had a key project indicator. On the other end, terms of reference can simply be a contract of work, which will have service level agreements, KPIs, expectations of scope and everything else. And the work packages, whether irrespective of what project it is, they'll be from one end of the scale a contract of work that's very specific and very, very rigorous. It could be a services contract, or it could be like a start to finish contract. And what I mean by that is you're not necessarily delivering a service. You may be building something or delivering products, and you have a contract in place that defines the terms of delivering this project. Key project indicators as well. So defining the terms of reference relevant to the work packages as to what each of these stakeholders is going to achieve is going to be important when you kick off the project. And it will be, you can set agenda points in here as well as to when people get together in that work package, what they're going to discuss. They're going to continually check the key project indicators. You're going to continually check action issues and risks. And you're going to continually check progress against the program, deadlines, milestones, critical success factors, anything else that needs to be escalated up into steering or decision makers or sponsors. Terms of reference. Also for communication, which if you're doing a project charter, if you're going to deliver a program of work, it's important to explain to everybody how you're going to monitor actions and how often. We'll come on to how often in a minute, but how in terms of how you're going to grade them in terms of status, how they're going to be linked back to the program, which work streams are going to be categorized, which actions are going to be categorized into which work streams, sorry. And so in terms of actions, issues, and risks, they need to be categorized. So we'll put here categorized. Okay. Actions, they'll be given a status to ensure you know when a project is going, when a task is going to start, how the progress is going, if the task is at risk of not meeting its deadline, and if the task is overdue in terms of timing. Now, we'll come on to categorization and tracking in a second, but the reason why I've structured that in such a way is because if a task is in progress, then it's not at risk of failure, and it's not at risk of being and it's not overdue. If it's in progress, you'll have a deadline, and you'll have a person ideally assigned to the action that needs to be completed. If he, she, or they are absent, for example, and it's a critical success factor to meet a deadline or a milestone, then that it is able to be categorized as at risk, which will inform your risk tracker. You can then assess it in terms of probability and impact, and should that risk become an issue, you then assess it in terms of impact. And then you need to grade your risks and issues as to how you will define probability and impact. Now, that's very important, because if you grade your impact to the project, and you'll need to define which grade, what each grade means. So in simplistic terms, grade 1 is low impact. Grade 5 is, God forbid, catastrophic. And again, if you're in manufacturing, or if you're in pharma, you're in asset intensive and high risk environments. And I mentioned this in the last session as well. The risk control, risk analysis is very detailed, and it has to be. Going deep back into data, configuration, quality, and understanding failure modes, effects, cause, and criticality analysis. So we don't need to go into detail there, but the most important point is you're going to explain to everyone, this is how we're going to track actions. This is what the levels of impact mean. So if it's level 1, well, we can manage that. If it's level 5, well, if it's a risk that we can manage and it's going to be level 5 impact, we need to go back to the sponsor and say, we either need some form of extension, we might need to bring an interim person in, we might need more people, we might need to go out to necessary stakeholders to communicate that this is something that's going to happen, but this is the plan moving forward. So as long as everybody knows this right from the beginning, it will help you manage risks and issues moving forward. So actions, issues, and risks are categorized as to how you're going to track them and what status they'll receive. Issues and risks in terms of how you're going to grade impact for your issues, because an issue is something that happens that could be unforeseen, or it could be a risk that's materialized that has an impact to your critical success factors and or your key success factor. And that could be an idea as to how you can grade them as well. And risks, how you're going to determine probability and how you're going to determine impact. I have seen where impact is graded in different categories as well. So you could have systems people and operations, for example, business as usual. So if someone is going to be off, I don't want to pick on the HR business partner, but for the HR business partner who's managing a work stream, he or she or they might be planning on meeting a key deadline, key communication to the people for some form of people change, and they haven't been able to get it done for whatever reason. That can then be allocated as a risk. You can then assess the impact, which for me, if it's a people impact, then you can escalate it into your steering and into your sponsor, arrange for some form of mitigation treatment for that. If, for example, I've had to attend a workshop as part of a key project communication, and I got a puncture on the way there. That was an issue. Just to explain it further, I've also had it where people have needed to perform critical tasks, and for unforeseen circumstances in that environment, they haven't been able to complete them. So that's an issue. So once you explain to everyone the grading of impact and probability and impact for risk, everyone knows what happens, and it helps communicate the project. And then dependencies. Dependencies is a key one, and I'm going to rub this off in a second, but dependencies are when a task has to be completed before the next task can move forward. So if, for example, you're building a house, the bricks can't be built before the foundations and DPC is laid. Bricks can't be laid, sorry, before the foundations and DPC is laid. So the first course of brickwork has a dependency on foundations being laid and DPC. And the reason why I use that analogy is if you're requesting finance to fund construction projects, you have a key deadline as to when foundations and DPC is going to be laid. So you can demonstrate progress for you to receive the next series of funding to move the project on. And so that has a key dependency, a key milestone, critical success factor of the house being built, indeed. So that's why dependencies are important. And we're going to come on to interdependencies also. So interdependencies are tasks in one work stream that have a dependency on another work stream before they can continue. And I'll use the analogy of HR and operations again. So HR need to communicate to the workforce on this date before the workforce can do X, Y, Z. A key communication needs to go out on to meet this milestone to let everyone know what's going to happen, and we'll come on to these comms in a second. These need to go out to meet this milestone, critical success factor, before people know that they're traveling to Denmark next week, for example. And so they have interdependencies from comms into HR, into operations, into systems, and things like that. All right, so let's start from. So if I was going in cold into an organisation, I would start with these 7 questions. We'll leave them there. And we've categorised we've got our project charter. Okay. So we've got our key critical success factor. So we've got our key success factor mission. Okay. So we know what success looks like. What we need to do now is we need to devise the program of work, but then tie in how the project or program is going to be communicated and how you're going to monitor progress. So you have your mission statement. What should happen at the very beginning, and you'll need to define this as part of your program, is you'll have a pre-kickoff comms. The pre-kickoff comms should come from the sponsor when you've had approval for your project charter, or when you've had agreement that you can move forward to deliver a strategy, to deliver, you've won a contract, or you know, unfortunately you might have lost some business also, but you're going to demobilize very professionally, very proficiently, and you've got a new mission. So you've devised the mission. Pre-kickoff comms should come from the sponsor, the key decision maker. The sponsor, again, through corporate communications or through the workforce, explaining this is our mission for this program. The sponsor ideally should announce also the project lead. Now, that's very important. For selfish reasons, I've had mission statements communicated and had to go into different countries, different businesses, different operations, and the sponsor has communicated the mission, or the mission hasn't been fully communicated, but we've defined what success will look like. However, no one knows who you are when you want to go in and manage the program of work. So it's very important that in the pre-kickoff comms, the sponsor highlights what the key success factors are, and also who's going to lead this program of work and who will be involved also. So key players who will be involved, project leading key players. Okay. So once you've done your pre-kickoff, you've defined already who's going to be involved in the project. So you'll have your sponsor here. You will have whether it's a senior leadership team or the business management, operations leaders, but ideally you'll have a layer of decision making before it gets to the overall sponsor. Now the sponsor can be part of the steering as well, and sometimes those two can be amalgamated. But you've got your steering or SLT, and again I've had SLT, steering, and sponsor for some big projects. You've then got your project lead, and then your project lead has your work streams. So when you're doing the communication of the pre-kickoff, all of these people need to know what the mission is and who's going to lead the program and who the key people are. And the reason for that is so that they know that for me, if I'm going to be the project lead, for example, or if I was the sponsor, I'd want to make sure that the project lead is known if I'm invested in the project, because I know he, she, or they are going to need to talk to each of the work streams for the kickoff meetings. So after the pre-kickoff, this will be within your project charter. It won't be included in the comms, but this is just to illustrate to you how the communications and flow will go. So all of the work streams, so we'll just call these WSs. Then there's the kickoff. Now the kickoff, it will be in the program, and you will explain prior to the program moving forward how you're going to kick the program of work off. So if you're the project lead, you're the business leader, you're the entrepreneur that's working with suppliers, etc., etc. The kickoff, you explain the project charter in summary and the terms of reference for each of the work streams. You'll have a kickoff with the steering or SLT. You'll have, if you're the project lead, you'll have a kickoff with each of the work stream leads as well, the work stream leads as well, and you'll explain that this is the operation of the project management office. This is what we're here to achieve. This is when we're going to meet, and I'll come on to frequency and things like that. This is how actions will be tracked. The actions will be linked back to the program. Here is the overall program. Any dependencies which you've already told me are going to be put in place. And if there's any amendments, in the kickoff is the best place to work with the people. And you might need subsequent meetings and one-to-ones with relevant subject matter experts if there's any differences with your version of their work, and their version of what they need to do. Very important to get that nailed right from the beginning. And it all goes through communication and engagement. So, people who are involved in the plan rarely want to change it. Yeah, people who plan the change don't want to change the plan, essentially. So you involve them right from the kickoff. These are the sequences of work. This is the program. These are the dependencies. Now, in the kickoff, you'll explain in summary the terms of reference, how you're going to track actions, issues, and risks, how they're going to be categorized, what high and low impact means, how you're going to track the status of actions, how the actions link back to the program. This point is when you ask where the interdependencies are. So work stream, work stream, work stream, work stream, work stream. You'll need to use a certain level of skill, but also bring the work stream subject matter experts or work stream leaders together to determine where the interdependencies are. So you need to do this piece of work before the next work stream can do their piece of work, and or these two pieces of work can run in parallel. And so you'll see that, so we could call this one a milestone, a milestone, a milestone in sequence. So you could have work stream 1, and this is your kickoff timeline. This could be week 1, week 2. You could also, if you're doing this in parallel, this could also be week 2. Week 3. Just to show them in sequence, and then you've got work streams. So you could have work stream 1 that needs to perform this task here. We could have work stream 2 that needs to perform this task here. But then, if, for example, these could be the foundation layers, again, going back to the house analogy, and these could be the brick layers. And then, of course, the interdependency is that needs to finish. We'll just call these units of time before this one can start. And that's an interdependency between the two work streams. Okay. So we've kicked off the project. We've spoken to all of the work stream leads as to how the project is going to move forward. Now you need to develop a key governance structure in terms of getting people together to continually track actions, issues, and risks in accordance with the program, your milestones, and your critical success factors. So all of these things that I'm talking to you about now will need to be communicated right from the beginning, so everyone knows and buys in and commits to being involved in the project and program moving forward. So, for example, the sponsor, he, she, or they might be a senior leader. If you flatten the hierarchy, it might just be a key decision maker, but they tend to be, if they're a sponsor, invested in the project, but not as heavily involved in the project as the project lead may be, who's leading the project. And so ideally for the sponsor and for the steering or senior leadership team or the layer above the project lead is to tap into existing meetings within the business. So if the team meets every week, then you can ask every second meeting, can we have a project update on the agenda? Why is that necessary? You know the meeting's going to take place, you know everyone's going to be there, you're not duplicating meetings. And if you're on the agenda, you get to meet these guys, on a call or face-to-face, and you get to report or ask them and hold people accountable. So let's say, for example, the sponsor wants to be kept informed monthly. The steering, you're going to meet fortnightly, which means at the beginning of the project, your work stream leads, you can meet weekly for a weekly update. And that will form what I call the governance drumbeat. So you can draw it out simply in a table. Okay. And if you have Monday to Friday across there, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the long Friday, we like long Fridays. Let's put Saturday and Sunday on there as well. Saturday and Sunday. And then down here, you've got your time during the day. So we'll just draw a clock there. And then what you can explain is the third Monday of every month, at, let's say, 9 o'clock, third Monday, you're going to update the sponsor. On the second Wednesday beforehand, at say 10 o'clock, you're going to inform the steering committee, but project leads, every Friday at 9:30, at 9:30, you're going to communicate with them and ask them for their updates in accordance with the tasks and actions that they've allocated and provided to you, with the dependencies that you can track in the program. And every week, you're going to go through each action that's been allocated to a person. Each action will be obviously applicable to each work stream. You allocate a person because you want the person in the meeting, and you simply ask them, can I have your update on this action and understand progress? Is it still in progress? Are there any risks, any issues? And then if there's a risk, you can allocate it its status. The risk goes into your risk tracker. You allocate it a level of treatment. Again, you might want to bring that out of the meeting if there's a risk that you need to deal with and treat. And are there any issues, and how do we assess that? This works in a sense that you're meeting every Friday. You have time from the Friday meetings for the week after to update steering on the Wednesday, which the Monday after the Wednesday meetings, you update the sponsor. And then this follows on, meaning once you've updated the sponsor, the next Wednesday, you're meeting with the steering committee, and then every Friday, you're back closing the feedback loop into your work streams. So a scenario would be, Mr. and Mrs. Person in this work stream, can I have your update on this task, please? Is it in progress? Yes. Fantastic. Mr. and Mrs. Person, you've allocated George for this task. George, nice to meet you. Can I have your update on this task, please? It's important to have the people who've been allocated actions to be there to provide an update. Is it at risk? Well, actually, we've encountered some issues that we think is going to take a little bit longer. So that can then be put at risk, allocate it to the risk tracker, highlight it in the program and assess the interdependencies to understand if it's going to have a knock-on effect to meeting key milestones, i.e. critical success factors, i.e. critical path. Then you can then update the steering committee to say, this is a risk that we've had, and this is how we're going to treat it. It doesn't have an impact to critical path, critical milestones, or if it does, then we need to update the sponsor before the next meeting or at the next meeting, depending on the impact, to get a decision as to whether we can have an extension, and so on and so on. So once you've established all of this, and forgive me for backtracking to going back to the pre-kickoff, is because you will have put all of this into place as part of your project charter, as part of your business case or project initiation document. Or ideally, you've sat down and worked this out as some form of due diligence before expanding offices or moving into another country or mobilizing something rapidly across the world. You'll put in place your program. You will know that it's not perfect now, but once it's kicked off, I'm going to talk to all of the workstream leads to refine this program. And I'm going to meet with the workstream leads every week to track the actions, issues and risks. From every weekly meeting that rolls into a fortnightly meeting, I'm going to update the steering committee. And then every month, I'm going to update the sponsor. As long as you've prepared and you've done all of this, you've asked all of the 7 questions, you can put it all into your project charter, because you know that after pre-kickoff, you're going to need to communicate all of this to the rest of the project management office. So everybody knows what their terms of references are, whether it's a contract, their scope of work, what's expected of them in their work group, in their work stream, what work packages they're going to deliver. You're going to explain how to track actions, and they're going to be tracked every week, and they're going to be aligned to the program. You're going to identify in the kickoff meetings the critical milestones, because they inform the critical path of meeting the key success factors. You're going to define what impact means when issues arise. You're going to define how you're going to track issues, how you're going to assign probability and impact, even if you categorize different levels of impact in terms of, again, business as usual operations, IS&T or people, etc. You can communicate all of this so that they're reassured and understand exactly how the project is going to go. Stage gates, again, mentioned stage gates in the last session. So stage gates can be assigned to critical success factors and milestones. You can then allocate in here, which again, why you mentioned the key players in the pre-kickoff communication, who the decision makers are. So once you assign decision makers to stage gates, these people, or maybe people in here, need to sign off stage gates for you to move on to the next task. They need to approve a key task that's finished so that they can start. Systems is a good way of explaining that. So once you've designed the system, the solution architects will have designed it, then it goes into user acceptance testing. And so the people who are the end user may be part of the stage gate review before it can be put into a live environment for people to use the system. So you need to define who are the decision makers in each stage gate as well. Then once you've defined all of this, you can say to the sponsor, the person leading the overall program who assigned you to lead the change, or if you are the sponsor leading the change yourself, you know that after pre-kickoff, you've communicated the mission to everyone. Bang, embed the governance, embed the governance. I'll say it again because it sounds good. Embed the governance, have all of your meeting invites set up, ready to bounce, yeah? So weeklies, workstream, update, bounce, recurring invites to all these people who all know they're going to receive it because the project sponsor has communicated that you're the project lead. They all receive this invite, they all know they've got to attend because the sponsor said this is happening. Fortnightly, again, you'll have communicated with the steering, with the sponsor, and with the people here as well before the kickoff, because you've asked them, this is what we're thinking of doing, this is the project, the mission, we're going to communicate this at this date, and we need your sequence of events as to how it's going to formulate a program. So they all know that these invites and these governance meetings are going to hit their calendars. And then once that's all in place, you have your standard templates, track actions, issues, and risks ideally. You can do it in a spreadsheet, Google Sheets, Smartsheet, Project. I've used Clarizen. There's lots of things out there. The main thing with any project is that the comms and the governance is accessible. So I've managed global projects with Smartsheet. I've managed global change using Microsoft Project. I've had to use Microsoft Project to what it's designed for, with work breakdown, dependencies, full planning, critical path, whole lot. Because it depends on what the culture is like in the business that's changing, or the operation that's changing, and how accessible the communication and governance is. So I did promise that we would cover how to globalize things rapidly. So we've got the 44-minute mark, but I'll just spend a bit more time explaining how this can actually be a global project. So this structure, once you've got it in place, the project lead, let's use me as an example. So a global transformation, because I mentioned that the words that can sometimes blur the vision when it comes to projects. There's global, billions, millions, thousands, Okay. If you are a solopreneur with an awesome product that you want funding for, you may form the steering committee. You may appoint or you may be the project lead. You may have a sponsor in its literal sense, so someone who is funding you. You may have a client who's also the sponsor. You may be the sponsor yourself, but you might have some form of external party that you need to. If you need funding, then someone who needs to make key decisions as part of the project and needs to be involved. If you're a global CEO or a global account director, or if you're Elon Musk, you will sponsor a project. You'll put in place a steering committee or a leadership team. Those people may work with a project lead, or they'll assign a project lead to work with the work streams and the work stream leads. Now, the reason why these don't matter is because once this has been kicked off in terms of the pre-kickoff comms, let's say these work streams to meet one aim, they could be all over the world, right? They're all in one place on Zoom or Teams or whatever system you use. They could be multiple projects of the same nature in multiple countries, which I've done in the past. So me as the project lead, the only thing that separates the workstream leads is the country. So for example, I'm the project lead. I need to deliver a key mission. The same mission needs to be delivered in Germany, in Latin America, in Australia, in Houston, in Canada. We're delivering the same mission, but I'll be working with different workstream leads in different countries who will receive the same comms from the sponsor to say, I'm leading this change and transformation, and I'll be communicating with them every week. So going back to this here, I personally worked from midnight with China, right through early morning with Australia, up into the late afternoon, going across the way with America and LATAM and Canada. So the steering committee could be global as well. So you could have a Latin America CEO, you could have an Asia Pacific CEO, you could have the HR business partner leading global change based in Australia. But he, she, or they will have their counterparts based in the relevant countries to deliver the relevant change in the countries to deliver the same mission. How does it work? You've done your project charter. You've got approval from the sponsor, the key decision makers in the steering committee. You've been assigned the project lead role to mobilize a global account to deliver, to take best practice in one country and deliver it in another. You go to the decision maker in the country. If you're a matrix organization, or not, you ask the decision maker in the country and you ask for nominations. So this is the key mission. As per the sponsor, who are your workstream leads that can deliver this piece of work? Once you have those workstream leads, once you have those nominations, you've then got an introduction and a referral as to who you can communicate with. These people don't need to be in your organization. So you can work with your internal and external network to say, who are your connections in Chile? Who are your connections in Toronto? If we want to mobilize or go cross-border, who is best placed to work with us to deliver this project? Adopting the exact same methods, asking the 7 questions, putting in place a robust program, listing your actions when you're able to communicate pre-kickoff with the workstream leads, with the decision makers, and with the sponsor. Defining your project charter, understanding critical success factors, key dependencies, and interdependencies as much as possible pre-kickoff. Understanding feasibility, return on investment, etc., if necessary. Again, pre-kickoff, so that when you have the pre-kickoff comms, you know that you're able to embed the governance and deliver the program. There we go. So that should be pretty well aligned to the majority of project management methodologies and associations as well. APM, PRINCE2, MSP, PMI, the lot. And so that's how I would approach called a project, key initiative, mobilize best practice, demobilize some form of service offering. These 7 questions, leverage as much as you can the workstream leads pre-kickoff. Ensure that the sponsor communicates you as the project lead if that's the way that your organization is made up. Define who the key decision makers are. If you need to have stage gates, but essentially who the key stakeholders are that need to make decisions should issues and risks occur. Define how you're going to track actions, how they align back to the program, the dependencies, interdependencies, milestones, critical success factors. Then embed the governance with the governance drumbeat. Bum, every week. Workstream lead, we're going to meet this time. And again, you can meet with workstream lead 1 or the equivalent. Let's not pick on HR this time. IS&T, UK, IS&T, US, IS&T, Australia. Okay, so UK, because I'm based in the UK, that's awesome because I've got flexibility in terms of time zones. But I know in the US that I need to meet with these guys in my time zone at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes 12, depending on where they are exactly in the US. But Australia, I'm getting up early, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning to ensure you get Australia's time unless you're there. And so they form part of the Friday drumbeat. Knowing that, again, accommodating time zones, you're able to meet with the steering in 2 weeks and then sponsor every month. These are obviously, you can interchange them, and they don't always have to be every week. When you're kicking off a project, it's good to have a drumbeat for at least weekly. I've done it before where I've met Monday and then a Friday, so twice a week to just get that momentum going. But once you're happy that the momentum is being sustained within the project, the workstream leads, decision makers are making decisions, and responsive, the sponsors, sponsoring the project, you're able to maybe move them from weekly to fortnightly. You'll update the steering committee after the fortnightly workstream lead meeting. And then, the sponsor you can keep as monthly. And then over the top of this, if you have a group organization, if you're a global matrix organization, this may need to then go into an overarching group investment committee, group steering committee, etc. So I think I've given you enough. I have given you enough. I've given you enough to understand how not to overcomplicate it, but determine whether an industry is required for some of these tasks to deliver complex projects and sizable projects. Ask the 7 questions. Put in place the project management office, embed the governance. Watch this video back and there'll be something there for you if you are hesitating, if things have slowed down, if things aren't working or keep breaking in terms of timing, innovation, development, etc. So 54 minutes. So in total, that will round that up to an hour. So in an hour and 46 minutes, I think it was last time, I've explained how you can put in place a full project management office, troubleshoot an existing one, end procrastination, knowing that if you put these steps in place, you can structure some form of change or development within your business, and how to embed the governance, communications as well, and how to globalize it. It's not too different. It's just when you adopt a global mindset, you just take into account culture, interdependencies for time differences, and also accommodating time differences for key stakeholders within different countries and regions. Yeah, without repeating myself too much and going through the video over and over again, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next week. So I'll see you maybe Monday or Tuesday. There'll definitely be 2 lives next week. So Thursday for definite, Monday, Tuesday will be the next one, but I'll announce it on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Have a good evening, everyone.